Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Benny, is there any apologies?
Yes, an apology, Madam Mayor, from Councillor Lana Formosa.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, their spirits and ancestors, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Item number 1.3, offering of prayer. As part of Council's commitment to recognise the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer this evening will be offered by Rajana Sama, Pakistan, from the Hindu community, member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith Network. Please stand. The microphone, please.
Om Agajanana Patmarkam Gajanana Magarnizam Anegatandam Patmanam Egadandam Ubashmaye Vakratunda Mahagayam Suryagodi Samarprabha Nirviknam Gurumedeva Sarvagaryede Sarvada. Good evening. We were born, created by our parents. Likewise, this world was born and its creation was caused by an energy, and we call it the nature. The Hindus call this energy as God. In this context, there are 5 elements at work. You cannot measure these elements, and they are enormous. Earth, water, fire, wind and space fill this earth. But these elements cannot be produced by the sheer will of a human. A scientist can only produce other forms by utilizing these elements. The idea of this created nature should contain an eternal happiness where our forefathers, ancestors, and fellow beings all devised ways to achieve it. They devised various modes and lived through this plan. Even today, there are many known races adhere to their ancient roots and lead to a life of modesty. A life formed by relationship, compassion, and duty were all intertwined and shown a way of life. They were happy and contented. Love, compassion, opinions, openness, and trust permeates all through the region. This was the norm in the days gone by. Then arose the difference of opinions, wars, all grew up. Man decided to grow with greed, started to lead a life of free will, ego multiplied. Desire to conquer and an appetite for more and more shown. The rich and the powerful elected to conquer the nature. The competitions multiplied and an entire human size suffered. This pushed the planet to a very desperate reality. Forget love, compassion, culture, and human kindness all vanished. In turn, only greed enveloped. Natural cycles forgotten. Human dwelling in this pent-up, short-lived pleasure, dance and dancing. No one is watching the poor, helpless being, and their tears were truly forgotten. Many nations suffered. Unspeakable horror, poverty, illness are all there, and you name it, an evil force pervades. Now the end game is near. God of nature is slowly commencing its due courses. The world of science is its crossroads. Man-made disasters and now a world problem. The free wild man who dances all day long is coming to an end. A very dangerous junction. A hope should arise. Let us join it. Let us bring happiness back to our lives. God is in the nature. Surrender. Return to the Godhead. Let love spread. In conclusion, I wish and call upon this esteemed Dandenong Council to create big plans and devise programs to elevate human sufferings and show to our neighbors a free will to be used in the very positive way. Let us pray together and abide by the gods. Thank you very much. God
Thank you.
bless. Loga
Please be seated.
samasta sugino bhavantu.
Item number 1.4, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Meeting of Council of the 26th of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Foster. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 1.5, disclosures of interest. Mr. Benny?
There are no disclosures received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 2, Officers' Report Part 1. 2.1, Documents for Sealing. Moved by Councillor Loy Trong, seconded by Councillor Tan. Is there any questions, councillors?
Just got a statement,
Yes,
Mayor.
Councillor Tan.
Just want to say congratulations to Colin Hackett, Business Engineering and Major Project Services for 10 years of service for the City of Greater Dandenong, and also our recruiting Claudia Navrok and Brenda Eager to be appointed to the Authorised Officer for the Local Government Act 1989. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Is there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.2, documents for tabling. 2.2.1, petitions and joint letters. Moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 3, question time public. Mr. Benny, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. The question time has come upon us a bit quickly this evening. There are a number of questions this evening. The first is from... sorry, just bear with me for 1 second. I'll start. There is one questioner who has requested to ask their own questions. Sabrina Miletto of Dandenong. Sabrina has 2 questions. If she'd like to come forward, please, and ask them one at a time, and we'll answer them.
Thank you.
I really hate this
Yep.
thing. Having completed feedback for the Greater Dandenong Children's Plan, I note that using the Council's own population projections, there is expected to be 622 more 0 to 4 aged children in the suburb of Dandenong by 2026. Following that, there will be a further 581 children added by 2031. Given that 1,203 extra children, there will be 1,200 extra. Given that there will be 1,203 extra children in the next 10 years, why isn't the provision of children's services in an integrated, intergenerational Dandenong Community Hub listed as a priority in the draft Greater Dandenong Children's Plan 2021 to 2026
Ms Gatliffe can respond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The Greater Dandenong Children's Plan 2021 to 2026 has 2 key strategic actions to address population demand for the 0 to 4 year population. The first one is to explore external funding opportunities to be responsive to policy change in implementing timely 3-year-old kindergarten provision. And secondly, to undertake infrastructure planning to ensure timely and targeted provision of facilities and services for children and families. The outcomes of the 2 key strategic actions are to secure external funding and timely infrastructure development to meet community needs. An annual action plan will accompany the Children's Plan 21-26 to meet any change in demographic data and community need for all early years infrastructure development, including the Dandenong Community Hub.
Thank you. Your second question, please.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Sorry, the annual action plan you say, will that be available to the public or?
Through you, Madam Mayor, sorry, will it be open?
Like this annual action plan?
It will be a public document, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Your second question.
My second question is, why aren't details of the kindergarten infrastructure and services plan for 3-year-old kindergarten mentioned on page 60 as part of the organisational performance report included in the Greater Dandenong Children's Plan? The current Greater Dandenong Children's Plan seems to be so high level that it's not meaningful to the public.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The Kindergarten Infrastructure and Services Plan, or better known as the acronym KISP, for 3-year-old kindergarten has not been publicly released by the state government as yet. Once released, Council will include the KISP in the background document to the Children's Plan 21-26. And once the Children's Plan 21-26 is endorsed by Council, we will include an annual action plan, and this will be available to the public as I've just outlined.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Pooya Agri of Keysborough. When the Keysborough South concept design was approved in August last year, there was mention in the council report of there being potential provision of a mobile coffee cart in the foyer of the hub. What is happening in relation to making that a reality? It should make a lot of people come to the community hub who would normally not see a community hub being relevant or appealing for them, and would free up the hub staff from running the hub. Mr. Kearsley, I think, will respond, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley.
Thank you to the question, also on through you, Mayor. Plans for the Keysborough South Community Hub include a space and infrastructure for a mobile coffee cart at the entrance to the hub. Additionally, provisions have been made for a coffee machine and servery within the community kitchen, and self-serve tea and coffee making facilities are also included in the community lounge. With regards to the mobile coffee cart, there will be a period of review in terms of how the operations are being undertaken once the building is open and the community are using it. And as such, it may then be a decision made to go through a further process seeking independent mobile coffee carts at that particular time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. I had heard from a number of people the increasing amounts of rats or mice around the Red Gum Rest the picnic area and playground, so I thought I would have a look for myself one Sunday. What I found was at least 5 mice and rats in the playground, alone feeding off scraps. What is being done to control the numbers of rats and mice in this area? Mr Kearsley, Madam Mayor.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you to Mr Kerwin. With regards through you, Mayor, our cleansing services team are endeavouring to control the numbers of vermin at Dandenong Park through a high-frequency cleansing program. The cleansing program aims to reduce and eliminate food sources which are attracting the vermin. This program includes twice daily litter collection, barbecue and toilet cleansing, and daily litter bin collection in terms of the food waste. We will continue to monitor the issue and adjust our programs to meet the volume of litter and waste generated within the Red Gum Rest picnic area and playground.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
So the next question is also from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. Another thing I noticed when I visited the Red Gum Rest playground in Dandenong Park was that the water tap was still not operational. When will that be fixed, as water play has been one of the highlights at the playground at Dandenong Park over the last decade? Mr Kearsley, Madam Mayor.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Again, thank you to Mr Kerwin and through you, Mayor. The water play area within the Red Gum playground is a popular feature within the park. The operation of the tap has been problematic in the past. This is due to sand accelerating the wear and tear on the working parts of the water feature. We've been waiting on parts to upgrade the tap's hardware to ensure the continued operation of the water feature. We expect the tap was actually upgraded last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
This next series of questions is also from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. I think Mr Kerwin and others are now aware that under Council's governance rules, there is a restriction of 3 questions per questioner. This contains about 8 parts. So what I would propose is that we will I'll ask all of the questions, but the first 3 only can be answered here tonight. All questions, including those answered tonight, will be answered and detailed in the minutes of the meeting. It's regarding item 4.1.1 on the third quarter 2020-21 quarterly performance report, Part A, page 37. When will the LATM projects for the 21-22 be on the web? Mr Kearsley could respond in a minute.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you again to Mr Kerwin and through you, Mayor. The current list of priority local area traffic management or LATM projects is available on Council's website and it can be found under the road safety section. This is, however, the latest listing. Timing for delivery of these projects is dependent upon available budgets. Once the budget is known, and that includes the draft 21-22 budget, affordable projects from the top of the list are selected. They then undergo further community consultation and further design selection process. We should be able to update the LATM priority list in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
B, page 39. When will the final version of the Reconciliation Action Plan be coming back for Council, given the endorsement last year was provisional, subject to the Reconciliation Australia review? Ms Gatliff, Mr Mayor.
Ms Gatliff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kerwin, and through you, Mayor. The final version of the 2021-23 Reconciliation Plan will be presented to Council following formal approval by Reconciliation Australia. Reconciliation Australia provisionally approved the RAP in late January this year. Council has engaged a local artist for the draft RAP artwork, and this should be available for Reconciliation Australia to review around the 24th of May.
Thank you. Mr Benny, please.
And C, page 44. On what date will the EOI process for the Multicultural Communities Network commence? Again, Ms Gatliff, Madam Mayor.
Ms Gatliff, please.
Thank you again, Mr Kerwin, for the question, and through you, Mayor. The EOI commenced on Monday the 10th of May 2021 and will be open for applications for a duration of 4 weeks until Monday the 7th of June this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gatley.
The remaining questions, D, E, F and G, I will read, but they will not be responded to for the reasons that I previously stated. D, page 51, when is the implementation of the plastics policy among community stakeholders expected to be completed? That will be answered and included in the minutes. E, page 55, so as to provide context to the Biodiversity Action Plan, will the background report be publicly available when the Biodiversity Action Plan goes out for public exhibition? That too will be addressed. F, page 62, how many properties for potential acquisition have been considered at a councillor briefing session so far in 2021, and where can information on the Greater Dandenong website be found regarding what properties have been purchased by council since the open space acquisition program began a few years ago? That too will be addressed. And G, page 64, can the 10-year infrastructure plan be made publicly available? And that too will be addressed.
Thank you, Mr Whitting.
Mayor and councillors, the remaining 3 questions are from Gai Guest of Keysborough. These were received very late this afternoon. They are quite comprehensive. So for a key reason being that we require more time to provide the detailed responses that the questions require, we'll be taking all 3 on notice. And some of these questions include a number of parts, as you will hear. So the first is council meeting question time has become monotonous and bogged down in recent meetings where the same questions have been tweaked and asked repeatedly, and even after the question has been asked and answered, the questioner still gets to ask the same question again, just in a different form. For onlookers, we ask, is this firm, I assume that means this council, a well-oiled machine using our public purse effectively? From the residents looking in, we see decisions that focus like duplicating expensive buildings in the same precinct, Springers, $11 million Tatterson Pavilion and the $12.1 million Keysborough Hub, all in the same area, all offering the same spaces, and yet real data of user group information is not known, advertised or even researched. Now Dandenong want a multitude of hubs. So the questions are, but please don't give token symbolic gestures. 1, what is happening to the PEP building and Walker Street buildings? Will they be used for community spaces? 2, Clough Street building, which reminds us of our past. Who are the tenants of this building and why isn't it used more frequently? 3, how much money would be saved by repurposing these existing buildings rather than greenfield sites? 4, what are the actual usage figures, attendees versus overall costs of all council-run and owned facilities pre and post-COVID? 5, will the Oasis site be the combined wellbeing centre, community hub? If not, why not? And 6, will the Change Today, Shape Tomorrow document be the community consultation platform that will be used instead of going through the process of again with a great expense to the rest of the community? As stated, Mayor and councillors, these questions will be comprehensively addressed. I'm pleased to say at this stage, though, that there will be a favourable response to all matters raised. These are serious and legitimate questions, but council's processes of probity process and review ensure that there are answers that can be provided to all questions. The next set of questions are also from Gai Guest. On the CGD website, under council headings, there are many facilities council is managing. Leisure and recreational facilities 6, 2 are being rebuilt. Sporting clubs and grounds, 31 of these facilities need regular tenants and occupants. Master plans 9, significant capital sporting projects with 4 subheadings, and community centres and neighbourhood houses 8. This does not include all the church halls, guide and scout halls or even cultural centres that are standing idle in disrepair. There is a table of sporting facilities and passive reserve casual hire fees and charges. They seem too high depending on the number of participants. All this information needs to be reviewed and restructured to show what each ward has to offer their constituents. Why do we need another hub facility in Dandenong? How many facilities can council manage given they are costing the ratepayers money hand over fist and are not at full occupancy? Once again, Mayor and councillors, I can advise that there are detailed and comprehensive answers to all of these questions. I do not accept all of the assertions as being correct. Council has, from my recollection, 210 public buildings, and Council strives to maintain each and every one of these to the highest standard, and also seeks to ensure that each of those are used to their fullest. No public building is of any use to the community unless it is being used to its fullest extent, and that has some relevance and relationship to the costings that Council charges in terms of recovering a certain degree of expense associated with the operation of each building. But that's just a paraphrasing and overview of the situation, and again, a detailed response will be provided to Ms Guest and included in the minutes. Finally, Council's own Change Today, Shape Tomorrow 59-page document has just been released from the Conversation Caravan. How many different ways do we hold expensive community consultation out of a tiny financial budget? It really is how many different ways can you cook an egg. It is disappointing that certain sections seem to have a chokehold on what happens in this municipality, spending our public purse willy-nilly when it is not the overall residential view. The above document has just been released. Let's all sit down and just digest it, and let's marry it with other council documents around sustainability, heritage and especially town planning before we set off on another tangent of expensive community consultation where the same issues are discussed repeatedly for the same outcome. Is this document being discussed by the People's Panel presently? Are they now having input to these themes and adding to the collection of answers? Again, this will be comprehensively addressed, but again, I will do not hesitate to say that consultation is undertaken in this city and this municipality to the extent that council deems necessary and essential in informing the council to take informed decisions on behalf of the community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Benny. And public question taken on notice.
There was one public question taken on notice at the last meeting from Matthew Kerwin. It related to the minutes of the advisory committee meeting submitted to council, and that has now been addressed, and the answer will be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr Benny. Item number 4, Officers' Report Part 2, 4.1, Policy and Strategy. Moved by Councillor Gerard, seconded by Councillor Lim. Any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2, Other. 4.2.1, Draft Minutes of the Disability Advisory Committee meeting 29th of March 2021. Moved by Councillor Trong, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.2, Draft Minutes of the Positive Ageing Advisory Committee meeting 8th of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.3, Reports on matters discussed at council briefing sessions and pre-council meetings, 19th of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.4, List of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Trong. Is there any question, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 5, notices of motion. Well, there's none. So we'll just move on to item number 6, reports from councillors, delegates and councillors' questions. I'll start with Councillor Dark, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mayor, first of all, I just want to, for the gallery this evening, we have former councillor Frank Holohan, who represented the city of Dandenong from 1973 to 1994, and former councillor Teresa Rakiki, who represented the city of Springvale from 1998 to 1991. So just want to welcome both of those to the council meeting this evening. Mayor, my first question I have this evening has to do with some issues around rubbish at the back of the Parkmore Shopping Centre. There's been an issue along Kingsclear with quite a bit of rubbish blowing along. I was just wondering whether we could please follow up with whether we've had any conversations with Parkmore Shopping Centre to do with the fact that there has been a lot of rubbish. It's starting to get quite, I suppose, busy as well, because there's a lot of rubbish that's Hungry Jack's wrapper and Hungry Jack's material that's been blowing across Cheltenham Road as well. So we could please just chase that up.
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Yes, Councillor, between my local laws officers and the Litter Education Officer in Mr Kearsley's team, between us we'll coordinate some communication with the management at Parkmore.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr
Mayor.
Bosman. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my next question is with regards to the Keysborough Community Park, which is located on at the back of Eildon Drive and to the west of Loxwood. It was raised with me recently through the Freedom Club, which is held at Resurrection Parish. The ground at the back, I believe, had previously been used as a cricket ground. It previously had another use. However, there is an old brick pavilion and a circular field which is no longer being used. I just want to get an update on exactly what is happening with that field, given we're still, I suppose, maintaining it in a circle fashion, and whether we've proposed any future improvements given the townhouses which soon will be under construction there.
Mr Keighley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take that one on notice and we'll have a look and then get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I was out a couple of weeks ago on the weekend door knocking through Springvale South in Gwent Street at the back of where my ward is. A couple of residents have asked that there's a lot of nature strips have become quite bare. There's a lot of vehicles been parking over the nature strips, and they've seen some of the other areas where there's been quite a bit of planting. A question has been raised whether there is potential to have an increase in some plantings along Gwent Street and that area there where there's a lot of barren nature strips, and also if we can have local laws just do a couple of rounds of Gwent Street as well, just to make sure.
Mr Bosman, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through yourself, certainly, Councillor, we'll have we'll put on the list for increased patrols in the area. And I think as councillors are also aware, we are developing a guidelines for additional planting that will allow residents to go and do their own planting and beautification of nature strips, and within the guidelines that are currently being produced. So hopefully we'll see, first of all, action being taken from the point of view of parking management, but ultimately improve beautification of the area as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Dark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my final question this evening, I had some correspondence from Mr Tippett, who lives in Sunnyvale Crescent in Keysborough, and I know it's been a pre-existing issue I've raised on multiple occasions over the years. However, it's been noted there has been quite an increase in the amount of speeding that has been going on through Sunnyvale Crescent in the lead up to Chapel Road. It has been occurring from early in the morning and also to later at night. A few residents in the street have called me about it as well. I believe there's some cars which have been modified that are quite loud, who have been hooning up and down the street quite loudly, and it has been disturbing the peace. Just wonder if we could please just have a look at one, I suppose, what we're doing with regards to speeding, if we can put any sort of traffic management things in place, and two, if we, I'll saw some more details on the local laws around what we can do with cars that are modified.
Mr Bosman.
Madam Mayor, thank you. The question, I suppose, could be directed at both myself and Mr Kearsley. With regard to speed humps or other forms of traffic devices, we'll have a look and at that from Mr Kearsley's point of view, from the engineering point of view. With regard to noise and hooning, Councillor, my officers, the local laws officers, are not equipped, trained, or have jurisdiction to take action with hoon behaviour. That is the jurisdiction of Vic Police. I do have it directed at me fairly often about hoon behaviour, whom drivers, but as I say, it's not an area of local law jurisdiction, and my officers are not equipped to deal with that. I would suggest that the complainants do vigorously engage with Victoria Police in this matter.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Boswell. Councillor Dark.
Yes, I have one more question, Mayor. I just realised. Mayor, I have a question to the, I suppose, Acting Director of Community Services, particularly around the Bill Bungaroo Kindergarten in Fila Court in Keysborough, in my ward. There's been a lot of conversations which have occurred within the Directorate about the closure of the kindergarten and that its impending move to the Keysborough Primary School site. Some residents nearby in Putgrove have raised some concerns that there may be quite a fair distance for them to be able to commute to get access to the primary school. And there has been some conversations that have been had with regards to this kindergarten. I was just wondering if I could please get an update on what is planned for the kindergarten, if and all it is planned to close, when it is planned to close, and if you could provide any more information on that.
Ms. Gatliff, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have to take that question on notice. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Dark.
No further questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Milkovich, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief tonight. Just wanted to quickly thank the officers. I think it's Mr. Keel's department about sweeping the Boyd Lane on a number of occasions. The past couple of weeks, there has been quite a bit of rubbish dumped there by unsavoury visitors, and wanted to ask if is it possible to keep some sort of a schedule in place, even once a month or something, where the traders are not disadvantaged by walking out and stepping on broken bits and pieces of glass in the back lane. If we can maybe incorporate that in the Lonsdale Street sweep, just a quick walk around with one of the guys.
Mr. Keasley, please.
Yes, we can certainly have a look at doing that. Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Councillor
Thank you,
Milkovich.
Madam Mayor. And I've had a couple of photos sent by one of the local residents regarding the one of the charity stores. I think it's St. Vinny's de Paul down at Lonsdale Street in Dandenong, 111 to 115. There's quite a lot of rubbish. People dump their stuff, obviously, for charity purposes, but they also there's people that dump rubbish as well. But it's not so much that it sounds slightly, but it does. The wind does blow bits and pieces of stuff onto the road. I know it's a private car park, but is there any way that we can maybe liaise with the shop owners or the body corporate or whoever controls that car park to maybe just remind them to keep it intact?
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor, yes, we can do. We can simply, have a conversation with them, see if we can get the situation better managed. So I'll arrange that through our Regulatory Services Department.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Lim, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just would like to give some report about my activity the last week or so. On Monday, the 26th of April, I had an exciting meeting with Mr. Martin Fiedler, Mr. Marcus Foster, and Ms. Leonie King regarding Snowfest event 2021. This event going to put sensational Springvale on the spotlight, even more sensational than before, because we're going to have ice skating and so many activity during 10 days period. As a councillor of Springvale Central, I'm very excited and I'm going to promote this event very, very heavily for the next couple of months. On the Sunday, the 2nd of May 2021, my Cambodian community and myself had organized a Buddhist flower ceremony for raise fund for Monash Children Emergency Department. Only less than 6 weeks, we raised over $140,000 at my pharmacy as well as at the temple on that day. Thank for Mayor, Councillor Angela Long, Deputy Mayor Sophie Tan, and also Councillor Sean O'Reilly for your attendance. And up to now, we raised for Monash children over $580,000. It means over $500,000. On the 3rd on Monday, the 3rd of May, I attended a workshop about Dandenong Community Hub. On the 5th, I attended councillor workshop about community vision, councillor plan for our city. There was a great input from people panel. Thanks, Madam Mayor. That's all for me.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just some of report from the 27th of April to the 9th of May. So on the 2nd of May, I attended the Buddhist Flowers ceremony hosted by Lim Pharmacy, which is in support for the Monash Health Foundation. And congratulations for your generosity. So you've raised over $104,000. On the 5th of May, I attended the council workshop with some of the City of Greater Dandenong People's Panel, our executive members, CEO, and we're working on our council plan for the next 4 years, which is great group of our people's panel. So we'll see, the next 4 years we've got a lot of new ideas, so it's going to add it to our long-term plan for the next 4 years. On the 7th of May, I attended the Noble Park revitalisation program ministerial visit with the Mayor, Councillor Angela Long, Minister Sean Lean MP, also the Mr. Lee Talamas, and also Noble Park revitalisation board committees, our council staff as well. So I just want to say congratulations and thanks so much to the state government, especially the Labor state government, the suburban revitalisation program for investing in co-funding with the upgrades of the Allability playgrounds at Ross Reserve, also our Noble Park revitalisation program. So far they invested $500,000, which is upgrading on the Douglas Street streetscape as well. So with the Allability playground will be planned to be completed by June 2021, this financial year. Also with Douglas Street will be commencing soon, so looking to complete it by July 2021. On the 8th of May, I attended the Borders Flower fundraising, this one hosted by the Cambodian Australian Federation Inc., the Cambodian Association of Victoria and the Cambodian community. Together we raised over $300,000 on a day to support the poor people in Cambodia, as you know, who have been impacted by the recent COVID-19 lockdown. As in Cambodia, as you know, it's a third world country. I mean, the government doesn't have much with benefit. They don't have anything, with job seeker, job keeper. So it's locked down since the 13th of April until now. So with some red zone, I mean, a lot of people from the red zone area, which is like poor people, like factory workers, all the people that can't afford, at least on a day, we can help 100 families to at least survive for 2 weeks. So which is great work from our communities.
Thank you.
And just a few questions for tonight. So my first one just following up with the complaint from the resident regarding to noise issue that's caused by a car racing at Sandown Park. So basically, the resident live about 1.5k walking distance to the Sandown Park race course. So this is issue raised since November 2020. It's ongoing issues. So already sent a few information to the relevant officer. Could you please give some update on these? Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Through yourself, I did have a discussion with Councillor Tan. Matter has been investigated, and I'm sorry if the message hasn't gone back to the complainant, that at the times the noises occurred, the motor racing occurred, they were in compliance with the planning permit that has been issued for motor racing at the track, both in terms of the days under which or at which they were conducted, the races were conducted, and within the sound limits. But I will, Councillor, get a formal response back and see if there were any other dates that maybe have subsequently come through since the original complaint was lodged. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Tan.
Thank you. Next question regarding to, this is on the Marine Crescent Noble Park. So resident complained about that, around the areas that they're feeling unsafe. There's some issue with the anti-social behaviour with the boarding house around corner Buckley Street. Also to do with probably lack of street light, and also traffic and traffic congestion, and also the speeding issue as well. So can the relevant officer please provide some feedback on this? Thank you.
Mr. Keasley, please.
I think this is a dual show. I'm happy to get the information from you, Councillor, with regards to the particulars of the address, with regards to the traffic issues and also the street lighting. So if you could forward those details through, we could get those underway, and I'll pass over to Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Mr. Bosman?
Madam Mayor, thank you. As Mr. Kearsley said, this is a duet. And as in response to your question, similar question from Councillor Milkovich, issues of hooning are not within the jurisdiction of local laws with council officers to attend to. Similarly, antisocial behaviour is something that is better attended to by VicPol. It's not within our local law to control antisocial behaviour. In consultation with Mr. Kearsley, we will have a look at the address in terms of its compliance with the planning scheme, that the use on site is in compliance with the planning scheme and the building regulations. But as to the behaviour of the people on site, I must say that is a matter to be taken up and through Victoria Police. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Tan?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Mamedi?
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, we lost former Councillor and Mayor Ian McDonald a few days ago. Ian was very active in the Dandenong community for many, many decades. He served Mayor 2 times, and we only just made him a living treasure in 2020, so it's sad to see him pass. And I used to bump into Ian very regular at the Dandenong Plaza, and he used to fill me in with the history of Dandenong, and I'll surely miss him and those meetings we used to have. So, yeah, very sad to hear that the passing of the late Ian McDonald. Also, councillors, I attended many iftar dinners in the last fortnight. One especially that I attended was the Taha Association, which is a growing Afghan community. The iftar dinners are people who have break their fast, if people don't know what iftar means, and that's been happening right throughout the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is ending on Wednesday, so I would like to wish all the community who are celebrating Eid, so Eid Mubarak to the community who are celebrating. Just some questions, Mayor. I understand that we've installed the parking sensors citywide. I understand they're in Springvale, Dandenong, I think they're in Noble Park. When will we be able to turn them on? And I understand that we'll be getting good data out of these sensors.
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I have to get the update on that. I'm not sure whether they were extended into Noble Park. I can certainly provide an update, and also with regards to the commencement and the type of data that we'll be getting from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mamedi?
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Also, another question. I haven't had a chance to meet up with one of the directors regarding this question, but I do see driving past Dandenong Park, it's got security fences right around it. What work are we doing there at the moment that we've sort of closed half of Dandenong Park off at the moment?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you. Again, I'll have to get an update. We do have ongoing works there. I think most of those works are related to new pathways. We did actually have them removed on Friday so that the weekend park run could take place, but I'll get some more information for you and provide that to all council.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mamedi?
Thank you. Also, I've had a resident call me up regarding street lighting at Sunset Grove, Dandenong. Can we please have a look at the lighting in that street?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Yes, certainly we can. If you can pass on the details of the particular property, what we do is we get someone to have a look and inspect. If we do believe they are not of a high quality or a high standard, we then have to refer that to United Energy, and that's where the delay starts. We actually do have some issues with how long that they may take, some months sometimes, but we can certainly have a look at it to see whether a change is required.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mamedi?
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Sunset Grove is a very short street, so I mean, I'm not sure what number address the lady that called me lived in, but it's only a short street, so we can have a look at the whole street. Also, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Bosman and his team. I read in the quarterly performance report that 100% of town planning applications received were completed within the required timeframe. So can you pass on our congratulations to the team, who I know work very hard under difficult situations. And thank you.
Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I too would like to acknowledge the esteemed company we have here tonight of our past fellow councillors. Firstly, I would like to belatedly wish a happy Mother's Day to all those who perform mothering roles in the City of Greater Dandenong, including aunts, stepmums, grandmas, and in some cases single dads who do such a great job. And also to recognise for some it's a day of remembrance and a sad day for some as well. I spent a wonderful evening enjoying iftar with the great women from the Cleveland Street Mosque, along with the Honourable Gabrielle Williams and the community policing team. I thank these women for their warm hospitality and wish, as Councillor Mehmeti has, our Muslim community Eid Mubarak for when Ramadan ends on Wednesday. Last weekend, I had the honour of attending the Australian Local Government's Women's Conference with Councillor Formoso, who's not with us here tonight. It was a wonderful chance to network with women councillors across the state and find out the great work that they're all doing. I also would like to take this opportunity to commend council staff who secured the $1 million grant that was secured from the Living Libraries Infrastructure Program that will go to the Keysborough Hub which will contribute to an even greater facility in the Keysborough Hub. So I wish to acknowledge the work of the staff and thank them for the outcome. I also had the honour of attending the People's Panel consultation, which was incredibly energising for all of us, I think, who attended. And just to reiterate, this council is very, very much focused on meaningful and deliberate consultation. We take consultation with the community extremely seriously, and we do listen, and we can consolidate all of the feedback that the council get, and we do use that in the development of council plans. The role of the council is to be responsive to the needs and wants of the community, and the People's Panel is an extraordinary example of that. I wish to commend the consultants who are carrying out this body of work, Mosaic Lab, who are doing such an extraordinary job, and I also wish to thank the extraordinary effort of the people who are representing the City of Greater Dandenong for the enormous amount of hours and time and effort and energy they are putting into this. It's extremely encouraging, and I think we all walked away from that feeling much boosted for having attended that event. I'd also like to take the opportunity to remind people that the Forever Fest is starting this Saturday, which is a tremendous week of extraordinary events that are being carried out in the City of Dandenong, both online and face-to-face events with engaging speakers where the people of the City of Dandenong can learn about the sustainability work that the Council is doing and also how they can conduct that work themselves. So my first question is, there was a Dandenong Journal article in the past week about a person seeking asylum in the southeast who was banned from paid work and as he awaits years for a legal outcome to remain in Australia. My question is, as chairing council of the local government mayoral task force supporting people seeking asylum, are we taking an advocacy role in this situation of this person seeking asylum and others facing asylum more generally?
Ms. Gatliff, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Officers at this stage are not aware of the specifics of this particular case and will follow up on the needs of this person once details become available. The local government mayoral task force supporting people seeking asylum continues with its ongoing general advocacy in collaboration with the Refugee Council of Australia via the Back Your Neighbour campaign with regular postings via its social media presence. Specific stories about individuals or families may be highlighted in these platforms depending on the nature of the circumstances involved.
Thank you, Ms. Gatliff.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Gerard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep.
My next question is, given the latest science indicates that we need to reach net zero emissions by 2030 to safely avoid a 1.5 temperature rise, is Council considering amending its own climate change emergency strategy to reflect this? If not, why not?
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, I think there's a lot of work currently being done, and whether we're looking at amending anything currently, Councillor, I'll take on notice. I think it's the question deserves a more complex answer than the question itself implies. I'll take that on notice and come back to you all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Mr Bosman, and it's pleasing to note the state government has vastly increased their targets in the last week. My next question, in respect to the Council's waste contract and the proposed advanced waste solutions, including waste-to-energy plants, is the Council aware that the citizens of Hume effectively revoked the proposed waste-to-energy plant's social licence to operate due to health concerns expressed by the community?
Mr Keasley, please. Is it a dual one again?
No,
Mr. Keasley, please.
No, I'll take this one. Thank you, Councillor. I personally am not aware of that particular situation, but I will seek some commentary from my staff, and we can actually investigate by going directly to Hume, and we can then provide that information to you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the Council ensure that all waste solutions in the City of Greater Dandenong will not emit cancer-causing substance that will impact the health of our community?
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. I'll take this one notice, but just a question of clarity. I know the overarching question you're referring to refers to waste to energy, but in this question you're referring to all waste solutions. Does that include matters of recycling and FOGO?
Councillor Garrard.
Thanks for the clarification, for the opportunity to clarify. No, this I'm referring only to the advanced waste solutions, and that the other waste options are not emitting cancer-causing substances.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When will the Council fix the lighting in Durling Trail between Springvale and Westall stations that is creating currently a risk to public safety?
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take this one notice, but as I did indicate with the other inquiry, it may be sitting with United Energy, and that's something I'll follow up and provide some detail.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the public open space brought in recent years in Dandenong and Noble Park, can these sites be put on the web so the public can know our progress in acquiring open space?
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Yes, Councillor, there's been 5 sites that were put to Council, 4 of which have been purchased, and I'll certainly investigate whether we can put those details on our website. I think that should be relatively easy.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Garrard, please.
And further question, follow-up question, what is the status and timeframes of these sites being formally zoned in public park and recreational zone?
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, those that are required or that do require rezoning, none of those are on my business plan at the moment. They will be placed on my business plan as soon as possible, as soon as I can dedicate resources to them. And the process of rezoning generally takes in the vicinity of 18 months. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What is the status and timeframes of the public art installation in the Hemming Street shopping strip, Dandenong?
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. The Hemming Street Public Art Project is well underway. Designs inspired by the local Dandenong West primary students and refined by illustrator Becky Orpin have been developed into a bright and inviting mural, now on display at 102 Hemming Street. Kinetic totem sculptures are also currently under fabrication. Whilst there have been some delays experienced due to unforeseen challenges with the availability of materials related to the fabrication, it is anticipated that these totems will be installed by the end of this financial year.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What is the status and timeframes of the finalisation of the Tatchwan Park Nature Sensory Trail?
Mr Keasley, please.
Councillor, through you, Mayor, this particular item is not included in the upcoming 21-22 Capital Works listing. It was actually a matter for Council debate and consideration during that. So as it's not part of that ongoing program, it will be considered in the 22-23 financial year.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question. On the 14th of September last year, Council endorsed the draft Greater Dandenong Reconciliation Action Plan, subject to further review by the Reconcilia Australia, and we heard that earlier on. Has this process been completed? Will it come back to Council for final adoption, or alternatively, will it be put on the website? Also, the Council's report on the 14th of September last year identified a need for a 0.8 EFT position for the delivery of the RAP. That was the point that was at that point under budgeted. What is the current status of that issue?
Ms Gatlib, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. Reconciliation Australia provisionally endorsed the draft 2021-23 RAP in late January this year and will provide final endorsement once artwork has been complete. A local artist has been engaged to develop the draft RAP artwork, and once endorsed Reconciliation Australia, the RAP will be officially launched and placed on Council's website. The 0.8 EFT officer position to deliver the RAP portfolio is currently being advertised as we speak. There is, however, no budget allocation for the identified second position at this stage.
Thank you, Ms Gatlib. Councillor Foster, please.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just over the weekend, I spent some time door knocking in the Yarraman ward, particularly in Dandenong. Some of the concerns raised have been in relation to lack of on-street parking surrounding residents' homes, particularly where there have been, might I say, an overdevelopment of townhouses. A resident from Queen Street in particular in Dandenong has expressed concerns that residents and visitors from the neighbouring block of townhouses park on the street rather than in the townhouse complex itself, and this is impacting on other locals being able to park close to their home. My question, Madam Mayor, to the relevant officer is in relation to resident parking in these areas. Could Council please consider parking permits for this particular location, but also similar areas as well? Parking permits may serve as a deterrent for non-residents to park there, or at least limit their time parked in the street, and would encourage residents of blocks of townhouses in question to park in their off-street parking.
Mr Bosman, please. Yes, sir. Or is you? Sorry? Which one?
Yeah, I was just going to handball, you know.
All right. Sorry, Mr Keasley, please. I thought with parking issues, it's usually you,
No,
Mr Bosman.
No, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to that, I'll have the traffic engineers, transport engineers have a look at that. It is a fairly complex issue in terms of residential parking permits. We have generally found when the matter is introduced or thought about being introduced, a lot of other residents in the street don't necessarily agree with that. However, we will have a look and we'll then come back to you before we proceed any further.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Foster, please.
Just a follow-up question in regards to that. The resident I speak of also has a disability and is inconvenienced significantly when they have to walk a distance from their car to their home. Does Council have a policy in relation to applying for disabled parking spots in residential areas?
Mr Keasley, please.
No, we don't. With regards to the supply of disability spaces, they're normally associated with commercial shopping centres, public uses like this building and others. My only advice would be that the resident would need to find parking on their own property, if that is the case. But if that's not, then I suggest if you pass the details on, we can have our transport engineers go and have a look.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Foster, please.
Concerns have also been raised with me about the traffic situation on Chandler Road on the approach to Heatherton Road, particularly in peak hour, due to cars parked near the intersection. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the relevant officer, what has Council been able to do to try and address the situation, and would Council consider potentially moving no standing signs further down to accommodate, or possible clearways or no standing during peak hours?
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. That matter has actually been referred to the Department of Transport. We have had a meeting with the Department of Transport. It is their road. So therefore, any changes that we wish to put, whether it's the changing of the signage or introduction of different line markings on the road, are all subject to their approval. So that matter is in hand, but I will foreshadow that unless we get the Department of Transport to agree to some of those matters, then there will be some difficulty. We are facing generally a higher level of congestion on some of our roads due to the lessening of the COVID issues and perhaps people not returning to pre-COVID levels with regards to the use of buses and public transport. But we would see that probably developing over the coming months.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Foster, please.
My last one, I promise. So next week we know is Volunteer Week, and last council meeting I did mention my concerns about our municipality having low rates of volunteerism compared to the wider Victoria. So through you, Madam Mayor, can the relevant officer please advise on what range of events will be conducted next week to promote volunteering and its benefits so as to increase the number of residents in our municipality that volunteer, given we are at such a low rate? Thank you.
Ms Gadworth, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Madam Mayor. Certainly our big event for volunteer recognition for Volunteer Week is next Tuesday afternoon at the Springvale City Hall, where all the volunteers across the municipality are invited to a recognition event, which is something I think this council does particularly well. COVID has played a huge challenge, I think, to volunteers everywhere. We're certainly looking at a range of different ways of trying to bring people back, because clearly one of the major things that we've learned through the COVID crisis is the critical importance of social participation in our local communities. So for volunteers, them participating in their community is good for them, and it's good for the people that they serve, and therefore it's good for council as well. So there are a range of things that we're doing. We did endorse our first volunteer policy last year, and that's got a range of ways that we're trying to engage with different councils. I know from my own department, my day job in community care, we're looking at ways of of using volunteers in different ways, not just the traditional Meals on Wheels, but a range of other things that really promote that social participation. Things like friendly visiting, other events, outings, those sorts of things we're looking at, which is a win-win, because it's the power of the relationship that's really, really important. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that are happening, and we are certainly working with the volunteer coordinator in community development to look at a whole range of use across the whole of council in different areas about how we validate those people that give of their time and their expertise to support our community. And I think volunteering is one of the best ways that people can support their community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster, please.
Just a follow-up question. How are we promoting next week, whether it be online or even just in our...
in regard to all the registered volunteers with council have been invited to the event on Tuesday. There's also information on the website. I can check. I'll have to take on notice whether there's things being put on our social media as well. But certainly, traditionally, it's been older people that volunteer. So certainly I know my positive ageing team that works with the 100+ seniors clubs and groups across the municipality, they certainly try and get the message out there. And they, in fact, the committees of those seniors clubs are volunteers. So we're creating more and more support for those volunteers and looking at different ways of getting them back as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gatley. Councillor Foster, please. Councillor O'Reilly, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the events I've attended have already been mentioned, so I won't go over them, but just to note, it was quite an interesting experience with the Greater Dandenong People's Panel, and I must admit I was a bit sceptical as to how it might go, how valuable it might be. given that councillors are elected as representatives of the community and we're supposed to make the decisions, and it could be seen that we're outsourcing that to another group of people, but with all the contact and with the participants of the People's Panel and the particular events we've had, I really think it's been great to have, for this council to have more engagement with the community. It's been a learning experience for myself and other councillors. It's been a learning experience, I'm sure, for the participants when I've spoken with them, and from asking around, other municipalities haven't done it the same way we've done. They've more done the minimum required under the Local Government Act, and I'm proud that this council made a decision that we weren't going to do it half-hearted, that we were going to engage as much as possible in the process, and I can see we already have and will get great value from it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Trong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question to ask Mr. Mick James. Do you know, because some residents who don't have the green cap bin, and but if they say that if they ask the council provider green cap bin for them, the council rate will be increased or not?
Which one?
The bin. But do you know some homes, some residents?
Kitchen caddies.
Yes.
Mr. Keasley, please. Kitchen caddy.
Kitchen caddy.
Thank you, Councillor. If the councillor's referring to the kitchen caddies that go with the food organics, that's something that we can provide. If you provide me again with the details of the residents. If it's with regards to varying size of other bins, we can also assist with that as well. So if you provide me with the details of who's asking, we can get our waste officer and others to go and speak to them directly.
Thank you. On the 27th of April, Greater Dandenong Chamber of Commerce Business Workshop, in conjunction with Empowered to Speak, Confidence in Connecting with Others. On the 29th of April, I attended the official opening ceremony of the new building of Nissan Engine Parts. It's a new administration building and extended warehouse facility, followed by a tour through the facility and a light lunch. On the 1st of May, I attended the People's Panel's vision presentation. On the 2nd of May, I attended the Buddhist flower ceremony. 3rd of May, I attended a memorial service to celebrate the life of Betty Wilderman. She was a member of the Spirit of Enterprise. On the 4th of May, I attended the Greek Senior Citizens St. Athanasis Parish of Springvale Greek Easter Lunch. On the 5th of May, I attended the Spanish Italiano Mother's Day Lunch. That night, I attended the Council Plan Councillors Workshop. The 6th of May, I attended the Julian Hill meeting, which was a roundtable discussion about cutbacks financially to service providers. That night, I attended Wellsprings for Women's annual iftar dinner. The 7th of May, I met with Minister Lean site visit. We started off at the all-purpose All Abilities playground, which will be completed soon, and it looks fantastic even now. And we did a walk through to Douglas Street and then up through Ian Street to show that the Noel Park Revitalisation Board are doing a fair bit of work along that area, and we need more funding for that area as well. Also that day, I met with the Druids community in Victoria, and that night I attended at the Drum Theatre Archie's Roach concert, Tell Me Why. And it was a fantastic performance a full house, and he did us proud. And on the 8th of May, I attended the Mauritian Golden Age Mother's Day dance. And on the 9th of May, I attended the 2021 Mother's Day talent show celebration hosted by A877 Community Club and 12 local Chinese art organisations. And tonight, Council held a special dinner in recognition of 5 of our residents getting OAMs. And we've still got one of them in the room. And thank you, Joe. Right. John is, Mr. Benny, is there any questions taken on notice from last meeting?
Yes, there were 17 questions taken on notice at the last meeting, and all have been addressed and are tabled this evening.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, urgent business. As there's no urgent business, I declare this meeting closed at 8:15, and thank you very much for your attendance.